Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 3, Chapter 24. The night spent by Levin on the hayrick was not without its reward. The way in which he administered his estate aroused against him all sorts of interests. Notwithstanding the excellent crops, never, or at least it seemed to him that never, had there been such failure and such unfriendly relations between him and the muzhiks as this year. And now the reasons for this failure and this animosity were especially clear to him. The pleasure which he found in work itself, the resulting acquaintance with the muzhiks, the envy which seized him when he saw them and their lives, the desire to lead such a life himself, which on the night had been not visionary but real, the details necessary to carry out his desire. All this taken together had so changed his views in regard to the management of his estate that he could not take the same interest as before, and he could not help seeing how these unpleasant relations with the laborers met him at every new undertaking. The herd of improved cows, like Pava, all fertilized and plowed lands, 9 equal fields well planted, the 90 desyatins covered with odoriferous dressing, the deep drills and other improvements, all was excellent so far as it only concerned himself and the people who were in sympathy with him. But now he clearly saw, in his study of the books on rural economy, in which the principal element was found to be the laborer, may have helped him to this conclusion, that this present manner of carrying on his estate was only a cruel and wicked struggle between him and the laborers, in which on one side, on his side, was a constant effort to carry out his aspirations for the accomplishment of better models, and on the other side the natural order of things. In this struggle he saw that on his side there were effort and lofty purpose, and on the other no effort or purpose, and that the result was that the estate went from bad to worse. Beautiful tools were destroyed, beautiful cattle and lands ruined. The principal objection was the energy absolutely wasted in this matter, but he could not help thinking now, when his thought was laid bare, that the aim of his energies was itself unworthy. In reality, where lay his quarrel? He defended every penny of his own, and he could not help defending them because he was obliged to use his energies to do the utmost. Otherwise he would not have wherewithal to pay his laborers. And they defended their right to work lazily and comfortably, in other words, as they had always done. It was for his interest that every laborer should do his very best. Above all, should strive not to break the winnowing machines, the horse rakes, so that he might accomplish what he was doing. But the laborer wanted to do his work as easily as possible, with long breathing spaces for doing nothing, and napping and meditating. The present year, Levin found this at every step. He sent to mow the clover for fodder, meaning the bad desyatins, where there promised to be bare spaces mixed with grass, and not fit for seed, and they would cut his best desyatins, reserved for seed, and allege as excuse that it was the prikishchik's orders, and they vexed him the more because the fodder was perfectly easy to distinguish, but he knew that they took this because on these desyatins it was easier work. He sent the winnowing machine out, and they broke it on the first trial, because some muzhik found it disagreeable to sit on the trestle while the vans were flying over his head. And they told him, "Don't vex yourself about it, the babui will soon winnow it." They had to give up using the newfangled plows because the laborer could not get it through his head to let down the shares, or else bore down so that he tired the horse out and spoiled the land. The horses got into the wheat field because not one muzhik was willing to be a night watchman, and notwithstanding the express commands to the contrary, the laborers took turns on the night guard, and Vanka, who had been working all day, fell asleep, and, acknowledging his mistake, said, "Voyavasha." 3 of the best heifers were lost because they were let into the clover patch without water, and no one would believe that the clover would hurt them, and they told him for his consolation that 112 head had died in the neighborhood in 3 days. All this was done, not because there was enmity against Levin or his estate. On the contrary, he knew that they loved him, called him by a title which meant in their lips the highest praise, but they did these things simply because they liked to work gaily and idly, and his interests seemed not only strange and incomprehensible, but also fatally opposed to their own true interests. For a long time, Levin had been feeling discontented with his situation. He saw that his canoe was leaking, but he couldn't find the leaks, and he did not hunt for them, perhaps on purpose to deceive himself. Nothing would have been left for him if he had allowed his illusions to perish. But now he could no longer deceive himself. His farming was not only no longer interesting, but was disgusting to him, and he could not put his heart in it any more. To this was added the fact that, Kitty Shtcherbatskaya was not more than 30 versts away, and he wanted to see her, but he couldn't. Darya Alexandrovna Obloskaya, when he called upon her, invited him to come with the express purpose of renewing his offer to his sister, who, as she pretended to think, now cared for him. Levin himself, after he caught the glimpse of Kitty Shtcherbatskaya, felt that he had not ceased to love her, but he couldn't go to Oblonsky's because he knew that she was there. The fact that he had offered himself and she had refused him put an impassable bar between them. I cannot ask her to be my wife, because she could not be the wife of a man whom she wanted, he said to himself. The thought of this made him cold and hostile towards her. I have not the strength to go and talk with her without a sense of reproach, to look at her without angry feelings, and she would feel the same towards me, only more so. And besides, how can I go there now, after what Darya Alexandrovna told me? How can I help showing that I know what she told me, that I can go with magnanimity, to pardon her, to be reconciled to her? I, in her presence, play the role of a pardoning and honor-conferring lover to her. Why did Darya Alexandrovna tell me that? I might meet her accidentally, and then all would go of itself, but now it's impossible. Darya Alexandrovna sent him a note asking the loan of a side saddle for Kitty. They tell me you have a saddle, she wrote. I hope that you will bring it yourself. This was too much for him. How could a sensible woman of any delicacy so lower her sister? He wrote 10 notes and tore them all up, and then sent the saddle without any reply. To write that he would come was impossible, because he couldn't come. To write that he could not come because he was busy or going away somewhere was still worse. So he sent the saddle without any reply, and with the consciousness that he was doing something disgraceful, on the next day, leaving the now disagreeable charge of the estate to the Prikishchik, he set off to a distant district to see his friend Sivashsky, who lived surrounded by a beautiful hunting ground, and who had lately invited him to fulfill an old project of making him a visit. The woodcock marshes in the district of Surov had long attracted Levin, but on account of his farm work he had always put off the visit. Now he was glad to go from the neighborhood of the Shtcherbatskys, and especially from his estate, and to hunt, which for all his tribulations was always a sovereign remedy.